Hi there. Now I'm currently building this lovely flying wing. It's called the Ion and was designed by Peter Fisher in 1957. And this Ion is going to be powered by a small P.W. 55, so that's just over half a cc. Now I want to install the poor muffler that comes for this engine. And the idea is it's nothing to do with reducing the sound, because it's quite a small engine anyway, and it might be loud when you're next to it on the test stand, but actually you walk away from it and the sound doesn't really carry that great. So it's not a sound issue, but I want to try and direct the fuel away from the model, or the oil, sorry, coming out of the engine away from the model as much as possible. I know it's a diesel. Diesels are mucky things at the best of times, but if I can just jet away or direct away some of the oil to help keep this clean, then all the better. So I thought I'd do a quick video just showing installing the PAW muffler, which I've never done this before, so you'll see it warts and all, and if it goes ugly, well, hopefully you'll learn from it, but hopefully it won't. And what else I'd like to do is I'd like to make a very short pipe coming from this muffler just up and directing the fuel I keep saying the fuel, the oil slightly up away from the model. Now I'm going to use this piece of aluminium tube. It's thin walled, it's only 0.45 millimeters thick. And I just want to make it about 40 mil long, 30-40 mil long. I don't want it very long at all. I don't know if it's going to affect the running of the engine, so I'm going to install the muffler, make the pipe or a little bit of an exhaust extension, and then we'll get it in the test stand and we'll see how it runs. Now this PAW55 I bought very recently, brand new, and I've run it for about 45 minutes, so it's kind of on the edge of being running, but I have done a video of this and you'll see it in the description below. There'll be a link if you're interested in that. But I know that I'm getting just over 10,000 RPM on the recommended prop that PAW suggests for running it in, and I can't quite remember. I think it's a 9x4, but I'm not sure. I'll need to check that. But anyway, we'll use exactly the same prop I used when I was running this in the test stand. So first things first, we'll get this muffler ring put on, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, well I've got my two fibre washers, I've got my manifold, or my silencer manifold I guess, and my engine. So I'm going to unscrew the compression screw and get that out of the way, just in case I slip when I'm using the strap wrench on here and just catch that. Now I think this is going to be fairly loose because it's like I say, it's a brand new engine, it hasn't had a chance to get gummed up. So I'm going to be using this strap wrench, and we're going to put this around, pull it nice and tight, fold the band back so we can grip it, stop it from sliding, and that has just come undone really easily. Hardly took a strap wrench, to be honest. So I'm just going to unscrew the top and just check the cylinder hasn't moved at all. The cylinder must be in quite firm, but you can see there is a scratch mark on the back of the cylinder there, which I put on with a pin, lined up with the line on the casting. Just a pin I use when I'm building, just a light scratch mark, because the last thing I want to do is alter the orientation of this cylinder. I want to keep it as is. So we've got two fibre washers, so I'm guessing one goes on the engine straight away. Now, well, you can see this has got a bigger diameter and a smaller diameter hole depending on which way up it is. So I contacted Poor and asked them the question of which was the way up that it was supposed to go, and they assured me that actually it didn't make any difference and I could have this either way. So, see, that's quite a tight fit there now. So if I put on the other fibre washer and then screw this back down, and this all seems really straightforward, so I will get this back together, and then I need to get this, before I tighten this up, I need to check where this is going to point in the model, and I need to check that my oh, that's interesting, because once you get the head on, you can't check the orientation of your scratch mark of the cylinder, but it seems pretty secure. I can see now it hasn't moved, so hopefully when I just nip it up, and I won't do it too tight, that should be absolutely fine. So I will get this in the model now, and we'll see which orientation that needs to be to fit best. Okay, so we've got the nose of the model here, and there's not room for the engine to go in if the exhaust is pointing back like that. So I think what we need to do is just angle it and bring it out the side wall of this nose. So if I just do that, put it off a bit of an angle and a little bit more. Yeah, so I think that is essentially how we need to have this. And then what we can do is we can just extend this pipe with a little bit of a curve pointing up and hopefully directing the oil away from the model. So I'll get this tightened up and then we'll have a look at making a pipe. Right, so the muffler's tightened on now in the right position, and I think this is just over 4.5 mil, so it's 4.6 mil diameter. Now the pipe that we've got, I think, is a 5 mil diameter, or just under 5 mil diameter internal, so it's a little bit loose on there. You can see it just wiggles a little bit. So what I've done is I've cut 4 cuts in the end of the pipe. You can just see them there as I rotate it, and I've just pinched that in a little bit to make that diameter smaller, and now that fits on there quite snugly. There we go, that fits on there quite well. And what I'm thinking of doing, I've got 2 possible options. One is to just make a very small strap out of some tin and a 2 mil nut and bolt, hex bolt, and just to tighten that up and hold it in place. Now oil may leak out of here a little bit, because there may still well be a little bit of a gap. If it does that, I'm going to take off the strap and I'll put on a piece of heat shrink wrap like you do on electrical soldering connections, and then I'll put the strapping on, and that will seal it. And that heat shrink wrap should be able to cope. The stuff I've got anyway is good up to about 125 degrees, so it should be okay, and it should seal that and stop any fuel coming out. Now, rather than having this coming straight out from the fuselage, I'm going to put a bend in it and just bring it up and direct it upwards, skywards. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend it with a pipe bender, and I've got a couple of pipe benders. Now these do different size radiuses, and this pipe doesn't bend overly well because it's not like copper pipe, which is nice and malleable. It's quite hard, this, and if I'm not careful I'm going to flatten it as I bend it. So I'm going to put a bigger bend on, and I think that will be kinder to the aluminium. I've done a little bit of trial with it, and this does put quite a tight bend, but it does narrow down the pipe. And I want to keep this pipe as full diameter as much as possible, because I don't want to lose pressure, or I don't want to create back pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this in the pipe bender, and I'm going to bend it to a desired level. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the model, and I'm just going to check how far out from the muffler the bend needs to be, and how high up I want it to, or what angle up I want it to go. Right, well, I think essentially I need the pipe to come skyward as soon as possible after it leaves the fuselage. So I think, even though I've put the cuts in that end of the pipe, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this and then I will trim it, because if I try to bend it really narrow, really quickly after the cuts I've put in, I'm still going to end up with a straight piece and it risks damaging this end. So I'm going to give it a generous amount there, and we'll put a bend on this, and let's just see what kind of, so we want to be up at about, I would say about 45 degrees. I don't think we need to put a full 90-degree bend in this. And just to show you what bender I'm using, it was fairly cheap off Amazon, but it seems to do a really nice job, and it'll do 6, 8 and 10 mil. Like I say, this aluminium pipe doesn't bend overly well because it's quite hard, and it does flatten it a little bit, but it is a bigger diameter pipe, so, and we're keeping it fairly short, so hopefully we won't be getting a lot of back pressure created. Right, well, that's taken that round to 45 degrees, and I think, oh, that's bent really nice. I'm quite pleased with that. So I think that will be ideal. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trim this length of pipe so that it really just starts to bend up after it leaves this poor manifold, and so it comes straight up, so it's as short as possible. And if I cut it to about there, and then I'll put my my slots in. So I'll just mark that up if I can find my pencil. So what we'll do is we will cut it, I think, at that point there, and we'll bring the slots back to about there, and then I can make up a strap. Right, well, trial and error has shown me that trying to drill a hole in a strap isn't the easiest of things, and twice now I've come out the side. So what I've done is I've drilled my holes based on these ones that I did earlier. I've drilled my holes in a bigger piece of steel, and now I'm just going to cut them out nice and carefully, and hopefully if I do this in a straight line we'll end up with a strap with the holes in the right location. So that's the one side done, and now we'll do this side, get rid of that thick piece there, and then we can wrap this around and we'll have our strap. Right, well, I've now got my clip ready to be tightened up to clamp that, and we'll just put that on and give it a whirl, see how it works. So right, well, I've got that tightened up now, and that is really secure. I'm surprised how well that's worked. So hopefully we won't get much leak of oil out of this, but the only way to tell is we've got to get this in the test stand and see how that works. Hopefully it's not going to cause a lot of back pressure, and as I said earlier, it is a bigger diameter pipe, so hopefully it'll be fine. I think this will look great on the model, but we'll get it in the test stand. Right, well, I've got it in the test stand. I've got my muffler and pipe on, so let's see how this thing runs. And I'm hoping the weather is kind to me. We've had a bit of rain this morning, so I need to get on with this. Anyway, I'll get it fired up and we'll see what the RPM is and how it runs. Lovely engine. Well, this engine ran absolutely lovely with this new manifold and custom pipe. I'm really pleased. I'll be honest with you, when I first started it up and got it running, I didn't think it was running quite as fast as a couple of weeks ago when I was running it without the manifold. But when I got the tacho on it, it just showed that it was over 10,000 RPM and more or less identical to what it was a couple of weeks ago without the manifold. And I think it's just this manifold is reducing the sound, the high notes, so it doesn't sound as fast, but it is performing just as well. Here, have a look at this next video clip, just a short clip showing this running without the manifold, and you can see what speed we get on the tacho. And also have a look at how much oil there is spread around the test stand, and that's very different to what we just had when there was no oil on the test stand at all. It was just getting all blown away out of the exhaust. Anyway, have a look at this quick clip. As I said, the test stand with this pipe was lovely and clean, but I did notice there was a little bit of oil collecting around the engine lugs where it was just dripping out from between the manifold top and bottom where those fibre washers are. But fibre washers, as I understand, swell up in the oil or water, whatever it is, to help make that seal. So I think these washers are going to swell up a little bit now they've got oil on them, and that will make that seal a little bit better. But if it doesn't, it's not a big problem, it's still a lot cleaner. And where we've got the pipe clamped onto the P.W manifold, there was just a little drip there, but nothing to concern really. So I think this is a real win-win situation. We haven't lost any performance, and we're going to keep that model a little bit cleaner. I know it's a diesel, it's going to get mucky anyway, and that's, you know, part of the hobby, but if we can get rid of some of it into the air and away from the model, that would be quite nice. So anyway, I've really enjoyed building this and testing it, and I hope you found it interesting and even useful, and please come back and see how we get on in pulling together this lovely 1950s Ion and getting it ready for the airfield. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. Thanks very much.